Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this edition of SBB University, where we are talking about the shortcuts that you need to know about before you start your search for that next phase in life, moving into a senior living community. So joining us this morning, we have a dynamic group of ladies. We're going to start off with some introductions. So we have Wendy Rickenbach, who's with us from Care Patrol. How are you this morning, Wendy? So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what led you to this wonderful industry that you're in today.
Yep. So I'm the owner of not only Care Patrol, which is a placement and transitional care management company, but also Town Square, which is a first of its kind concept 1950s themed adult day program center with our first location opening in Palmer Ranch. What led me here, I'll be quite honest, was a series of different things. I was on Wall Street for 18 years, and through a series of economic downturns, didn't want to live in Manhattan and did some soul searching. And what I found is that I love working with seniors. I sang in our choir at church, and I had all these grandparents, and as things were happening, kids lived everywhere else, and for some reason they just became my grandparents. And so finding something that I could pair that together and really make it a part of my mission and ministry led me straight to Care Patrol. And now I just want to do more for people in our community. And so that's what led me to Town Square.
Yes, and Wendy's energy is infectious, so for sure. So next we have joining us Miss Valerie LaBoy, who's with Exit Encompass Realty. How are you this morning, Valerie?
Hey, nice to see you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into real estate, working specifically with seniors.
Well, we moved here 7 years ago from the great state of New Jersey, and I found that there was a real need among seniors for people who would help them evaluate their situation and just help them decide where they ought to go next, and help them dispose of their current home. And sometimes they really needed somebody to listen to them, and I'm really good at listening.
Yes, I'm also a real estate agent. I think a lot of us are as our, backup career, if you will. And I know that you have to be quite the counselor if you're in real estate, because you are dealing with, and just Wendy too. I almost think of Wendy's career as some people have even said you're the real estate people for senior living. So it's kind of interesting how that all works out. Yeah, all right, Miss Donna. Donna's joining us from Goodwill, the White Glove program. So talk to me a little bit about what led you to this phase in your life, Donna.
Well, I've been part of Sarasota for, we were saying 49 years. I was talking to my mother this weekend and can't believe it's been that long. But I've been with Goodwill for 22 years. And 12 years ago, my grandmother passed away. And when she passed away, we took what we wanted to remember her by. And then we all kind of sat there saying, well, what are we going to do with everything else? So because I worked at Goodwill, I packed it all up and brought it to Goodwill. But the more I kept thinking about it, I had that light bulb moment, how many people are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's how it began. We had to get the approval, from the president and the board. So this is they said, we'll do it, but you have to lead it because you'll have a special heart for it. It'll always make me think of my grandmother. So that was the beginning.
And what a beautiful story that is. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to dive right in. For those folks that are watching today, just check the box above. You'll see everyone's contact information. So reach out with any questions that you may have for our panelists here. They are a wealth of knowledge. So Wendy, we're going to start up with you. What would be the most important shortcut that you think aging adults should be talking about when they're looking for care?
Well, the very first thing that I would say is don't try to do it alone. In Sarasota, Manatee, South Hillsborough County alone, we've got 186 community options and 123 private duty options. So asking a friend or a neighbor can be insightful. However, not knowing your specific care needs, looking 3 steps down the path, your financial disposition, your life goals and objectives, all those factors play into it. So my first thing is don't try to do it alone, to consult with an expert. Obviously putting a shameless plug in for Care Patrol, we're no cost, right? So have us come sit down and at least educate you. And the goal when I talk with most people is to help stay as independent as possible, as long as possible. Meaning how long can you stay in your home and yet still get the support you need? And then when is it time to make a transition and maybe look at community-based care options, right? So the first thing is don't do it alone, and don't rely on friends and neighbors unless they are experts at all 186 communities and 123 private duty companies. And there again, everybody may have some insight or one or two, but not knowing your full personal circumstances, I would just say get an expert. So that would be my very first tip. Am I give one tip or two tips? Two tips. Okay. My second tip is to define a budget before you ever step out your door. And I'm going to say this twice so that everybody hears me. Income does not equal budget. Income does not equal budget. Mom makes $1,500 and community-based care options are running, let's just call it $5,000 to have a round number. To have someone in your house for 8 hours a day, $6,000, $6,500. I mean, these are big numbers. So if mom's got $1,500, the first thing is I don't want you to get discouraged. And there again, it's a consultative. There are different funding strategies. Having come from a background on Wall Street, I'm really passionate about helping people preserve their assets, but also keeping them safe, keeping them independent, and hopefully helping them fulfill their end of life wishes. And that's a different conversation. So we got to define a budget, because what we don't want to do is go look at $1 million houses, so to speak, on a $200,000 house budget, right? It's the same thing when you bought your home or you go rent someplace. We want to make sure that we're looking at something that is sustainable to you, that's going to help support you on your journey of aging. So that's tip number 2. And I'm going to pause there because I know everybody's probably got different thoughts or whatever, but top 2 points.
Okay, and we'll be back for more points from you, Wendy. All right, Valerie, now we're discussing this, and Wendy's kind of that first step is to, when someone's thinking about transitioning into senior living care, they need to talk to somebody like her, just as somebody, when they're thinking about selling their house, needs to be proactive about that when speaking to you. So I guess one of the questions that I definitely want to ask you is, when you think you might be ready to start, what are some of the most important things that you can do to get prepared for that?
Well, I think one of the first things you have to do is really take an objective look at your home and see what maybe needs a little bit of updating, what needs to be cleared out. A lot of times people don't really see their home the way other people see it. So even if you have to have someone else come in who's going to be really honest with you and say, you know, there's really a lot of furniture in here. You really need to clear out some of that furniture. Or somebody might say, you know, I know you like to keep things, and you have quite a lot of collections in here, and it's really taking a lot of the living space. Maybe you need to take a look at those things. So it's really a matter of trying to objectively assess the situation and see what you can dispose of, what you might give away, what kinds of things you might do to eliminate some of the clutter in the house, because oftentimes the home will show a lot better and look a lot better if it is cleared out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And it is a perfect segue for Donna, but I do want to ask you one more question. In this market, as hot as this market is, are these types of things necessary, would you say? Like the downsizing, the decluttering?
Yes. I mean, what we're seeing is that everything is moving very quickly. Homes are selling very quickly, and people are not having a whole lot of chance to really think about things after a deal is made.
Right.
So it's really important to think about it before so that you're ready, you know? So yes, it is important to declutter, you know, and we can talk a little bit later about what kinds of improvements ought to be made.
No, that's great. It's a good question. I think that a lot of people would be asking, because that process can be so stressful when you are moving. So starting early, every single SVB university, I'm going to tell you to be proactive versus reactive. So that's great advice, Valerie. All right, next on the docket, we have Donna. And Donna, I'm sure that's music to your ears that you want Valerie's clients to declutter and downsize. Tell us a little bit about the mission of what you started. And well, you've told us a little bit about that, but what are some of the things that people can do in order to get their belongings picked up? Do you guys actually come and get those, or do they need to be dropped off at the store?
Well, as Valerie said, it's also right now. So yeah, so that those people don't get overwhelmed. They have to kind of figure out what they can take and what they can't. Our situation is if they're moving into independent living, or like my grandmother, did somebody pass away? And so a realtor is working with the actual family to help them do that. They take what they want as well as the trash, and what white glove service is a packing service. So we'll come in afterwards, after everything is taken out of there that they want. We come in with a team and we pack everything up and we pick everything up. We give the family a receipt, and the best part is we do it all for free. So it's just a win-win for everybody. Win for us because it goes to our stores to help our mission. It's a win for them, both psychologically and physically, because if you've ever tried to move, you know how that is. But we've gotten to a point after 12 years, we can empty out almost a 3-bedroom house in probably 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So, yeah.
That's impressive. Now, Donna, are there some things that you guys simply are just not at liberty or allowed to take? And what would you do with those?
There's not a lot that we can't take, but there's certain things that limit, are they sellable, as we say. Always remember the poem, when in doubt, throw it out. If you wouldn't buy it at Goodwill, no one else is going to want to. And if you've had it for 20 years and it's a rusty rake and you can use it over and over, but it's not going to sell. But yeah, so the trash you want to get rid of, certain things that they might have in their home that we can't take are pianos, organs, electric beds, platform beds, water beds. We can't take anything toxic that might blow up in the truck. And bummer, we can't take the liquor. So they better drink all the liquor. But I do want to mention also, though, a lot of people don't think about it, but there's non-perishable food that, you sit in the pantry and you've got cans of soup and things that they're not going to use again because they're moving into independent living or assisted living, and they're going to get all their meals. We partner with the local food banks here. So we'll even pack up all the non-perishable foods. And that's for your audience. Any Goodwill location will take food donations. It doesn't have to be through white glove service.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think now more than ever, those type of donations are absolutely needed for sure.
Yes, agreed.
All right, Wendy, we're going to loop it back around to you. Now, there are so many options out there for seniors when they're looking for that next phase. What are some common mistakes that seniors make when they start shopping for care?
Yeah, so, I meet really savvy seniors, right? Super educated, smart. We live in a community where people are pretty educated all in all, and they're pretty savvy, to say the least. So, they're smart, right? They're like, oh, we don't need help and we can do this. Like, we can ask all the right questions. But what I found is that they're looking in the moment, right? We're looking right now, what's happening with mom or dad, or what's happening with my spouse. They're not looking at the trajectory of where things are headed. Like, where's this train going, Average age of my clients, 83 to 86 years old, which means they're about 10 years older than other parts of the country. All right, so they've come down here, the Florida sunshine's kept them going. So the very first thing I'm going to say is that when you go to a community, for example, or you talk with a private duty company, you're going to talk with probably a salesperson. And guess what their job is to do? To sell. Sell. And I love our sales reps, right? But trust me, they've got a job to do. They are doing their job, and some of them are really good at it. So what I tell people, my first tip is put on your business hat. Desensitize. Get rid of the emotion. We're going in to do business, right? We're going to go in. We've got our questions lined up, and we're not going to get, sidetracked, because a lot of these sales pitches are to see how long they can keep you there, where are you at, agree to an assessment, and give them a deposit. That's the whole game, right? No. When we do tours, I will tell you, we keep them to 45 minutes for a purpose. We've already pre-educated. We've already pre-sold them, so to speak, right? We're taking an objective approach. So my thing is, take an objective approach, look 3 steps down the path. The other thing is that our communities here in Florida have 3 different levels of licensure. So you're going to go in there and they're going to be like, ooh, we have this high level of licensure. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you? And what's the benefit to you versus someone else? Standard license, limited nursing license, extended congregate care. The limited nursing and extended congregate care can provide on-site nursing services. The standard license has a nurse typically during business hours. They work on a doctor's order versus being able to operate in the scope of their license. What does that mean to you, and does it matter at all?
Right.
Right? Maybe your loved one has some, what I'm going to call pleasantly confusedness going on. Okay. And a lot of our loved ones that are aging are pleasant, you know, they forget stuff, right? They're kind of forgetful, but is this forgetfulness something that's kind of evolving? All right, because if it's evolving, maybe target communities that aren't independent, but maybe have other levels of care on campus. Or maybe if it's an assisted living, do they have a memory support community on campus, right? Something that we're looking 3 steps down the path. So those are a couple of quick suggestions that I can give when, if you're just insistent on doing it on your own, to maybe slow it down. And I'm going to give one more tip before we get away, because I don't know how much time we have. The third one is, what I tell my families is, you know, a lot of times looking at the end, kind of, what do we do with our house? What do we do with our stuff, right? We have great resources. It's about getting the right people on the bus. So we're always bringing in realtors, senior moving companies, downsizologists, CPAs, financial advisors, elder law attorneys. You have to get the right team on your bus to accomplish it. So my point is that one thing at a time. And if I could tell you, the first thing is mom and dad's safety always. Then we'll do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. We don't have to put the cart before the horse all the time. So that's my 2 cents.
You're welcome to share another tip if you'd like, Wendy.
Oh, I can share one more. Okay, good golly. You know, it's like, what is my tip? So, you know, those are the big ones. Like, really, when I'm looking over my notes and, you know, and what I have there, those are really the big pointers, right? People go at this, they don't know the right questions they ask, they don't know what they're looking for, they're fumbling around, they're making hundreds of phone calls. Sometimes they're doing it if, you know, I love that the family is in another state, right? And the daughter or the son gets the call, something's happened with mom or dad. They know no one here in Sarasota. They go online, they start Googling, they're calling everybody. They're just not sure. I got one more tip. This is it. And I'll probably say this twice. Medicare is medical insurance, not activity of daily living insurance. They're like, ooh, I've got great insurance. My mom has great insurance. We have great insurance. Matter of fact, I got supplements on supplements, right? AARP and all this fun stuff. Awesome. Yay. It's medical insurance. It's not activity of daily living insurance. So what that means is that if you are in a hospital or a rehab and you maybe have a nursing need, they'll come in and get you all taken care of under insurance, medical insurance, or they might send a nurse in to come shower mom after a surgery or whatever for a defined period of time, not forever, and then it ends, right? So what I'm talking about is your medical insurance does not pay for someone to come bathe, groom, dress, toilet, transfer you 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night, right?
And it doesn't
And
pay
so
for your kids for you to move into an assisted living. So that's a great.
It does not pay for it. Your medical insurance doesn't pay for your house payment or your utilities or your groceries today. So it's not going to pay for that somewhere else. So that's why I typically tell people the time to plan is that you are 73 to 76, 10 years before you will ever need it. And trust me, it is not if, it's when, because seniors live to 100 here. We estimate it because they kind of do. Our doctors are awesome at taking care of people. So we need you 10 years before you actually need something, so that the funding strategies that are available to assist with that, we actually have them in place. And you know what those are. And you know how to protect against it. And hang on to that money that you don't want to spend. Okay, because I want you to hang on to it. I'm going to help you hang on to your dollars.
All right.
You got to do it early. Not in a hospital.
Perfect. That's perfect. I'm glad you brought up that tip, because I can't tell you how many times people have called and said, well, mom's got Medicare, you know, we're covered to go into assisted living. And you have to have that really hard conversation with them. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
All right, Valerie, we're going to bounce down to you. Now, I'm sure you've worked with move managers. Wendy kind of used that terminology, and we typically do have someone on the panel, you know, to talk about that. So tell me about the process with a move manager, and then also go into some of those things that you were talking about as far as what should you not get rid of, or what updates should you and shouldn't you do in a market like today's market?
Okay, sure. Well, working with a move manager is really helpful because they can help you figure out if, let's say you're going to assisted living, what is the size of the space that you're going to have, you know? And then you can look at, well, what can I realistically take with me? I can't take that 4-poster bed with me because it's not going to fit, you know? Maybe I don't need to take the hutch with me because that's not going to fit either. And I don't really need it because I'm not going to be entertaining in my room. If people come to visit me, they're going to be coming for lunch, or maybe they'll be coming for dinner and we're going to go to the dining room.
Yeah.
So you need to really think about what are those things that you're definitely going to need. Think about which of the relatives might like to have some of those pieces. You know, maybe they want something to remember their family member by, and they might like that. There are certain things that I'm hearing don't sell when they go to a Goodwill or they go elsewhere. Things like mom's china. Nobody really wants it. You know,
Donna's like, I do.
Right.
So, you know, you have to really think about this and mentor will help you can take things, what space you're going into, and help coordinate the actual move. So I think that's really helpful.
Yes, they are very, very helpful. Now, go ahead and focus on the updates question. What type of updates should you hold off on doing because somebody may want to come in and do something totally different?
Yes, I had somebody the other day ask me, they had a home that was built in 1996, which isn't so long ago. And the home was very nice structurally, but there are certain things that it lacked. So it hasn't been updated since then. So for example, the kitchen lighting had not been updated. The bathrooms had not been updated. And they asked me, well, should we update those things now? Well, the answer to that is probably not. You don't want to do any kind of a permanent change to the home that somebody else may or may not like, right? You don't want to update it to today's standards and then expect that the buyer is going to want to pay for that, because they won't. And it's going to cost you a lot of money to do that. But there are things you can do that don't cost a lot of money, like a coat of paint on the house. Might cost you $1,500, less, big difference. The decluttering we've already talked about. Things like steam cleaning. You can have your carpets steam cleaned, your tile floors steam cleaned, and they will look fantastic. You know, the grout will look new again. And things that don't cost a lot, but really make things look good. You know, cleaning door frames, cleaning door jambs, things like that, where there's fingerprints or where it looks worn. Those things make a big difference. A little coat of paint on a door, for example, can make a big difference. Changing out the fluorescent light bulbs that are flickering, you know, those things make a big difference. Just making sure everything's in good repair, you know, making sure the house is clean, really super clean, makes a big difference.
That's a real thing. I've seen some of these real estate photos. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And
Now,
even things, you know, vertical blinds. If the vertical blinds have turned yellow and they don't look so nice, take them down.
yeah.
You know, you don't need to leave them up. And that'll help you get better money for your house when you sell it.
Yeah, the small things like that. Now, real quickly, I know with the hot market like this, it's a hard decision, but would you say that it's better to rent your house out if you don't need to sell it, or is it better to sell in today's market?
Well, renting can be a little tricky, especially if you live in a community that has rules against renting. So you might have a period of time where, let's suppose you want to test out an assisted living facility and see if you really like it.
Right.
If you know you're going to be there for let's say a month or two to try it out, then I would say no, don't rent your house, because it's a short period of time and you may decide that you really do like assisted living, and then you can make the decision to sell. But what if you decide that you don't like assisted living and you want to come back to your house and have, you know, care come into your house? Well, then it probably made sense that you did not rent it out, because then you can come right back to it. So if it looks like it's going to be a permanent decision or a relatively long period of time, let's say 6 months or so, 6 months or longer, then you might rent your house out. But you have to look at a couple of other things. If you're renting for a short period of time, the renter expects to have furnishings there. So you would need to leave your bed and all of your, you know, your linens and your, you know, your dishes and your silverware and all of those kinds of things. You'd have to leave all of that for that person to use. You know, if you're planning to rent your house for the long term, then you don't need to leave those things. You can clear out the house.
Right, right, absolutely. And it's an interesting market. Yes, Wendy.
So just a quick note, seniors that do look at community-based care options, if they are there for 30 or more days, there's a 98% rate. It's a statistic, a 98% rate that they will stay. So just throwing that out there for the families who are listening, because the seniors think I'm wrong, but I'm not 98% of the time I'm right. So families that are listening, just know if mom or dad go for about 30 days, you got a 98% rate of them actually staying, because they're going to make friends and start having fun and have that care that they need and the support that they need. And
on that cruise ship, on
that cruise ship kind of experience. Hopefully if they do their job right. So just putting that plug in there, compliment what she said. Perfect.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, Donna. Now, when people are making the decision to drop their belongings off, how are they helping the community? Because there's a great mission behind what you do.
Well, our Goodwill's mission is changing lives through the power of work. We, at Goodwill, Minnesota, we have over 700 employees. A lot of people don't realize how many employees, and 93% of our workforce is people that probably wouldn't have been able to find a job elsewhere. So it's a beautiful thing. And so all of those donations that you give to Goodwill, Minnesota stay in this community. That money is not going anywhere else. So we can really specialize all of our services for just our community. We even have a veterans office just for the veterans that offers free counseling, etc. So that's where your money is going to. And again, been there 22 years. I love it. I wouldn't go anywhere else. I really believe in them.
Yeah, no, it's a great mission. You have a great success story. I guess just the one last question is, if somebody is getting ready to go into the senior living community, what is the lead time for pickup? Like, let's say Valerie calls you and says, we're clearing some things out. What's the lead time?
It used to be 2 weeks, but with this market right now, we're about 3 weeks out right now. And fortunately, when you sell a house, 9 times out of 10, you've got 30 days. But it's still trying to figure it all out, etc. So I always say, if anybody is even interested in thinking about this, I come and personally do a walkthrough, and we have a one-on-one, and I have great relationships. I've met the greatest people. It's so fun, and to hear their stories, etc. But yeah, I would say give yourself 3 weeks lead time and at least get on the calendar.
Perfect. All right, ladies, this has been a great SBB University panel discussion brought to you today. And this is Shortcuts on Shopping for Senior Living. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to each of these panelists individually.